big themes for 2026 in the world of soft tissue surgical robotics. Let me start with the big three companies. I think they're going to be really important in 2026. We're going to talk about Intuitive, Medtronic, and Johnson & Johnson. So Intuitive, as always, the leader that's out there. What I expect from them this year is a couple of things. I expect to see things like software upgrades with Iris EG. I think they call it Iris EG. I don't know if they call it Iris SEG. But things like that. And there'll be small software updates that just make the usability of the Da Vinci 5 way better. And they will also spill down to the XI as well. I am still going to bet on there that they're going to do some kind of upgrade of the SP to the DV5 console at some point. I keep getting this wrong, but hopefully I'm right this year. I think that's going to be something they're going to do, is start to bring all the hardware together a little bit in a premium sector within the Da Vinci family. I do expect them also to be starting to drop in some of the telepresence telesurgery stronger this year. We may even see an approval for telesurgery in the US this year. That'll be an approval process, and then there'll be a slow rollout, probably some beta sites, because they'll want to work out the whole system of it properly. I think they will bring in some new instruments. I think you'll see the cardiac instruments drop this year. I think that's what you'll see later in this year. I think you'll start seeing some of their AI scene recognition coming in and being actually commercially available this year and put out into beta sites again. So I think there's a couple of things that they're going to do just to keep that upgrade coming of the Da Vinci 5. And what we're going to see is the gradual increase in the volumes of Da Vinci 5 as they go out there. I still think they're trying to work out the ASC, but I don't think it's going to be this year that you're going to see an ASC robot from Da Vinci. I think that they're going to be really looking at it and thinking about it, because that's one of the big themes for robotics in general, is site of care, ASC, lower acuity out in those kind of places. So yeah, so expect Intuitive to just keep ramping up also the marketing, showing that they have the dominance in there. There will be also, I think, as different players come to the market, they'll be doing more of what they've cleverly done last year, which is telling people why modular doesn't work, why table mounted doesn't work, and how they've looked at it in the past. They abandoned it for reason A, B, and C. So I think you'll see a little bit of that this year. Moving on to Medtronic. So Medtronic, as we know, got FDA clearance last year, and they are probably going to get this year the hernia clearance as well. So what I think you'll see from Medtronic is that definitely in the early part of the year, you'll see their first installations and you'll see their first commercial sites starting with Medtronic. And I think what you'll see throughout the year with Medtronic is, again, for inside the USA, I think they'll get the 510K on things like LigaSure, make sure that that's on the system if it's not already on yet, because I don't think it is. And then what I think they'll do as well is that they'll look in the OUS. I think the next thing they've got to get on is the stapler, and I predict that they might get the stapler. I kept thinking it would be the end of last year, but I've been wrong on that. So I think what they'll do is they'll get the stapler out there probably sometime this year in the OUS setting, and you'll start seeing the Signia stapler come onto the Hugo RAS system. And again, with that, I think you're just going to see gradual software updates and software drops, and they will introduce the telesurgery in the OUS, and then that'll eventually, maybe next year, come into the US. So yeah, Medtronic, and I think they're going to firmly be the second runner there. So J&J starts the year, they dropped in Ottava into the FDA de novo process, maybe 8-9 months. I think they could get clearance with a de novo for their upper GI indications probably by the end of the year. So you might see a November, December clearance of Ottava for the market. So I don't expect them to really do much commercially this year. And I think they'll do what they've continued to do very, very well, is keep under the radar and just keep churning along and just keep going for it. They've got their hernia trial that cleared, or clearance for IDE, so they'll be starting the hernia as well, which will be, again, we'll just chug along underneath, and I think you'll see updates saying we've started our first cases. I think you'll get some updates just so we're well on. And I imagine at SRS this year, sort of mid-year, which will be in Miami this year, just north of Miami, I think you'll see them they'll come and talk about their progress and how they're getting ready for the commercial launch, basically preparing the groundwork for when Ottava is ready. But I don't see them doing much more. Maybe Polyphonic more this year. Their digital system will get a little bit more of a boost in preparation of when Ottava comes out. But I think the main news for J&J this year will be not only that they've submitted for the FDA clearance, but they will get a clearance for Ottava late in the year. That's my prediction there. Now, all of those are going to be making side bets everywhere. So you saw J&J did a side bet into Renovo, and we just heard through Greg Roche's post I've just seen this morning that they've also put through J&J DC money into Distal Motion. So what they're doing is I think they're spreading their bets, and everyone keeps asking me, is that because Ottawa's failing? I don't think so. I think the market is now finally waking up to something I said a couple of years ago, which is you have to have the segmentation. You're going to have a portfolio of products. You're going to have your flagship product, which will be super expensive and for higher acuity, and we'll do all the big cancer cases over in the main block. And then the next theme that you'll start seeing is this segmentation as we go to lower acuity systems, and then you'll go to ASC kind of systems or clinic settings where they're going to be about fast throughput, better economics. There'll be things like disposable instrumentation that will be in there. I do expect to see that segmentation start to really come out now, and we are seeing that push from several companies in the US, and I expect CMR Surgical will also push because they've got a very small footprint for ASC. And this makes sense, right? It's where the main battleground is not, but where the fight is going, because that's where there's an alignment of interest by the hospitals, by the payers, to get people into the ASCs. It's not as easy as you think, and I will do another big post on ASCs. But you're going to have that next tier of robots in there that are going into the US, and they're looking for ways to find their niche. Not niche is a bad word because it's a massive segment, but their segment within the market. And ASCs is one of them. So you're going to see the Moon Surgicals, the Distal Motions, the CMRs. They're all going to start really trying to focus in on that ASC segment and try and put light between them and the big companies, especially Intuitive. So I think that's going to be a theme for this year. Some more general themes that I think we're going to see this year is that more and more we're going to hear about NVIDIA bringing more and more of their chipsets in, and then people exploiting those chipsets. So we're going to see more and more AI software functionality come on all of the systems. I think we're going to see more and more come into cardiac, and SSI could potentially get clearance this year. And if they do, then there is going to be a little bit of a battle heating up in the cardiac segment. And when I talk about cardiac, I mean like the transthoracic or a single port going up towards cardiac subxiphoid. But it's not going to be the endocardiac products that'll come in another post. And by the way, do definitely subscribe and hit the notifications bell, because I've got 2 more posts coming after this in the next couple of weeks. One is on the predictions for 2026 for the next growing segment, which is the endo GI segment. So the endoluminal robots in GI, do a whole video on that. And then I'm going to do a whole video again on the neurovascular, endovascular, endocardiac, which I would say was the endovascular systems. I'll do a whole video on that as well. So if you subscribe and click the notifications, it will tell you when my video drops, and that'll allow you to know that that's out there. Next big thing from the theme is the continuation of the telerobotics. So telesurgery. So there's telepresence, there's teleproctoring, and there's telepreceptoring, and there's telerobotics, and they're kind of the themes that are going to spread out. And I think we're going to start to see the initial understanding of where the value is in that. Now in China and India and Japan, they're already well into it on a daily basis in the telerobotics and the telesurgery. So we see that continuously in China. India and Japan. You're going to start seeing it come into Europe, and you're going to start to see it come into the US, but the use of it will be slightly different. And I think one of the big uses in the US that you're going to see as a theme this year is that you have a centralized hospital, and then you go out to your satellite hospitals, and it allows you to make use of the Da Vinci's or the robots that are out in the satellites to get the capacity up, or to get the usage up, so that you can have a surgeon in the morning in the main block over at one of the big hospitals do some cases. In the afternoon, they telerobotics in to mean that the robot out in one of the smaller hospitals is being used and utilized. I think that's probably the more logical way in the US. In Europe, a lot of it's going to be about using the robot as a way, because trying to get across a city in Europe to say your small satellite, it's just almost impossible. So I think you're going to also see a little bit of in Europe demonstrations of the fact that if you have the main robot over in the main hospital, you can get private cases or smaller cases again in satellites. So it'll be similar to the US, but for slightly different reasoning that it will happen around Europe. So I think telerobotics, big theme for 2026. Then, of course, we are going to see more and more AI demos. And I mean this from, you'll see automations coming. So there'll be automated steps, and then you'll see those automated steps start to chain into procedural steps. And then the procedural steps will be changed in demonstrators, lab demonstrators, into more procedures. It's like what Johns Hopkins did with the gallbladder. I think you'll see more and more of that kind of research coming out, and especially out of China. Turning my gaze to China a minute, there are a lot of systems already out in China, and some of them coming to Europe, like Tumai, Edge, Shirui. They're already in Europe and South America, Latin America. You're going to see more and more in China. Now, I do know that there will be 2 massive Chinese companies dropping robots this year. Not going to say it ahead of the game, but there will be 2 very, very big Chinese companies that will also join the fight this year, and they're going to launch their robots. And a lot of that is going to be trying to find differentiation through the software, through the AI, and through the automation. AI is going to become more and more of a theme in the big, large formats. It will, of course, be in the small format robots, things like Virtuoso. It will be in some of the specialized robots like Andromeda. So I'm not going to go into those too much in this one. I'm going to stay with the kind of laparoscopic robots on this post. But AI, automation, data sets, ecosystems, how all that data is used, training is going to be big. I think we're also going to see some big drops in simulation this year as well. I think we're going to see more and more companies working out how to do AI simulation, where the simulation will be super realistic and it will change, really allowing that every time you go into a simulator, you're going to have a different experience, and you'll be able to just on the fly say, give me some bleeding, and it'll start bleeding. There's going to be a lot of power put into these simulators so that we can have real world scenarios. One of the key things about simulation in robotics, you've got to get the adrenaline going. You've got to feel real. So I think that's one of the things we're going to see as a theme as well, is really seeing hyper real simulation. Pricing, everybody asked me about this. I still don't believe that you're going to see super cheap systems out there. I think what you're going to see is the continued, so Oreo was 60%, but now it's going to go to 80% this year in leasing deals or pay-per-click deals or long-term rentals. The capital up front is going away, so that becomes a non-issue. And I don't think you're going to see the prices crash as everyone predicted, just because volumes don't allow it yet today. And I still think that Intuitive will be the most competitive, and on any bids, tenders, requests for quotes, I still think that Intuitive is going to take the absolute lion's share of all of the tenders or bids that go out there. They will get them, and it won't really be based on price so much. It'll be about the entire offering with the economics sort of baked into it. But I still don't believe people can crash the economics as everyone promised in the past. Still think it's fallacy. We will see a continued shift over of stapling into robotics, and if Medtronic gets their stapler on it, that's going to go even faster. And I've already posted some stuff showing that there has been a big trend in the US to put the endo cutters onto the robot. The surgeons want a stapler on the robot, and all of the other Chinese robots are coming out with them. They've all got staplers either already on the market, or they've got them in preparation to come onto the market, and stapling will be one of the battlegrounds. It's not going to be used every single day in every single case, but if you don't have one, you're going to be moved out. Last thing is probably going to be imaging. We're going to see imaging upgrades. I think that Intuitive will drop their imaging upgrade sometime this year into the system, so it will go to a 4K camera as well as the 4K screen or 4K headset that they look into. I think we'll get white light ICG on Intuitive, and then we'll start to see the things like OBL. Blue light is going to be on there as well. It's going to start coming to more and more systems, and I think we're going to see gradual imaging upgrades across the systems as we move through 2026. So exciting year. I'm sure I've missed a ton of stuff out. We're going to see some consolidation of companies, by the way. I think some companies are going to just say this is just too expensive and too hard, and we're going to see it like a gradual change, or less bravado from some of the companies as they've gone out there, because they're going to realize it's harder than they think. Hinatori, yes, no, I didn't mention Hinatori. So I think that Hinatori will finally get CE mark this year. And I've been saying that, I think, now for 2 years. I can't understand why they wouldn't get CE mark this year. So I think we'll finally see Hinatori with CE mark this year. So we should see that on the market again in Europe. And nice system. Go and look at my review on Hinatori. I think that it won't make a massive impact commercially at first, but there will be people who want to use it, and it is a really nice system actually. Singapore will continue to make advances. You're going to see more and more areas where the single port really works, and it's interesting to look at some of the thoracic work that's going on now. Subxiphoid, so you've got single entry subxiphoid for some of the patients that can't have their chest invaded through the ribs, as it were. You're going to see a lot more retroperitoneal work going on as people find out in the urology space, for example, for the kidney or even for the prostate, some of the retroperitoneal work and some of the trans bladder work as well. You'll see that. So the SP is going to start to find its place, and I expect again more upgrades on the SP over the coming years, so that you see that, and other people are going to bring their SP more and more to market and going to be sort of riding on the coattails of Intuitive. And you see a lot of that also, always look to Korea when you look at the SP. But I will say that I think in the US, you're going to see more SP being used, and you're going to see the right cases for that technology being used. So yeah, look for the SP this year as well. Well, that's it. I'm sure I've missed a load of stuff out, but I wanted to give some of the main themes and some of the talking on some of the main companies that are out there for 2026. Let's see how I get on with that, and do subscribe because I've got some more videos dropping on endoluminal for GI, endoluminal generally, and endoluminal for endovascular. So look forward to seeing you then.